Democracy is often celebrated as the highest achievement of human governance, a system where freedom and equality reign supreme. Yet Plato, one of the greatest minds of antiquity, sounded a warning that still echoes through the centuries. Democracy, despite its noble ideals, can fail the soul. This failure is not merely political, it is deeply personal and spiritual. Plato believed that democracy risks unraveling the very fabric that holds a society and its individuals together. To understand why democracy can fail the soul, we must look beyond the surface of voting booths and laws and dive deep into the nature of human desires, the structure of the soul, and the dangers that unchecked freedom can unleash. At its core, democracy is about freedom to speak, to choose, to act without oppression. This freedom is precious and necessary, but Plato warned that freedom without order leads to chaos. Imagine a ship where every crew member claims the right to steer in any direction they choose, disregarding the compass or the captain's knowledge. The ship may appear free, but it will soon be lost at sea, battered by storms, and ultimately wrecked. Plato saw democracy as this ship, where the crew's unchecked desires could tear apart the unity needed for safe passage. One of Plato's most insightful contributions to political philosophy was his theory of the soul. According to him, the human soul has three parts: reason, spirit, and desire. Reason is the rational, thinking part that seeks truth and wisdom. Spirit is the courageous, willful part that can uphold justice and honor. Desire is the appetitive part that craves pleasure, comfort, and material goods. In a well-ordered soul, reason rules, spirit supports, and desire obeys. But democracy, by celebrating freedom above all else, tends to elevate desire above reason and spirit, leading to a soul that is disordered and vulnerable. This disorder in the soul reflects in society. When individuals prioritize their desires over reason, they become susceptible to impulsive decisions, superficial pleasures, and a lack of commitment to the common good. In a democracy where every voice is equal and no one is forced to follow any higher wisdom, this means the collective will can become a cacophony of conflicting wants, fears, and whims. Instead of creating unity, democracy risks fragmenting society into competing factions, each seeking to satisfy its own desires at the expense of others. Plato feared that such a state of affairs would lead inevitably to tyranny. When freedom degenerates into license, when desires run rampant unchecked, the masses become restless and demand a strong leader to restore order. This leader, promising security and simplicity, seizes power, often crushing the very freedoms democracy sought to protect. The soul that once enjoyed freedom is now enslaved, caught between chaos and oppression. But why does democracy fail the soul so profoundly? The answer lies in the way democracy treats knowledge and wisdom. Plato argued that true knowledge, the understanding of what is good, just, and true, is not accessible to everyone equally. Not everyone has trained their reason or cultivated their spirit. Democracy's assumption that everyone's opinion holds the same weight ignores the complexity of wisdom. It equates popularity with truth, feelings with facts, and votes with justice. This leads to a dangerous elevation of opinion over knowledge. When decisions are based on popularity or emotion, rather than careful thought, the soul's reason is sidelined. Individuals begin to live according to impulses and superficial desires. The very freedom democracy offers becomes a trap, as people choose what pleases them in the moment, rather than what benefits them in the long run. Plato's warning is a call to awaken the soul within democracy. He does not reject democracy outright. Instead, he asks us to recognize its limits and the need for inner order. Without a just soul, democracy cannot survive. It requires citizens who cultivate reason, temper spirit, and restrain desire. Only then can freedom be true freedom, freedom that leads to flourishing, not destruction. The philosopher kings Plato describes in the Republic are not mere rulers, but symbols of this ideal order. They are the souls who have mastered themselves, who govern not for personal gain but for the common good. While such rulers may seem distant or unrealistic today, Their true message is timeless. Societies must nurture wisdom and virtue within their people to sustain democracy. This leads us to a pressing question. How can we prevent democracy from failing the soul? Plato would say the solution starts with education, but not just any education, the kind that develops critical thinking, moral courage, and self-discipline. Education that trains citizens to discern true freedom from mere license. Education that helps individuals look beyond their immediate desires and consider the well-being of the whole community. Moreover, Plato challenges us to resist the temptation of instant gratification. Democracy, with its many choices and distractions, often encourages us to seek pleasure and comfort above all else. But such a pursuit empties the soul and fractures society. To keep democracy alive, we must cultivate patience, self-control, and a commitment to justice even when it is difficult. The soul's health depends on balance. Freedom must be balanced with responsibility. Desire must be balanced with reason. Individual rights must be balanced with the common good. When these balances are lost, democracy tilts toward chaos or tyranny. Plato's insight is especially relevant in our modern world. We live in a time of unprecedented freedoms, choices, and voices. Social media platforms amplify every opinion, and immediate gratification is just a click away. Yet, we also witness increasing polarization, misinformation, and the erosion of shared values. The soul of democracy is tested like never before. In this context, Plato's warning is not just philosophical, it is practical and urgent. Democracy can only thrive when its citizens strive for inner order. When they seek truth over convenience, wisdom over popularity, and justice over selfishness. This journey is not easy. It demands courage to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves. It demands discipline to resist fleeting pleasures. It demands humility to accept that no one has all the answers. But the reward is great, a soul that is free and just, and a democracy that fulfills its promise. As you reflect on this, ask yourself, are you nurturing your own soul in the face of democratic freedoms? Are you exercising your reason to guide your desires? Are you supporting your spirit to stand for justice? The survival of democracy depends not only on laws and institutions, but on the souls of its citizens. Plato's warning calls us to look inward as much as outward, to build the foundation of democracy within ourselves. Because when the soul fails, democracy fails. But when the soul thrives, democracy can be reborn, vibrant and true. When we delve deeper into Plato's critique of democracy, it becomes clear that his concerns are not simply about political mechanisms, but about the moral and spiritual health of the individuals who participate in the system. For Plato, the Haiou, soul is the microcosm of society. The state reflects what happens inside the hearts of its citizens. If souls become fractured by unchecked desires and irrational passions, the society itself becomes vulnerable to decay and collapse. One of the most profound ideas Plato offers is the connection between justice and the harmony of the soul. Justice, according to him, is achieved when each part of the soul performs its proper role. Reason leads with wisdom, spirit supports with courage, and desire obeys with moderation. In such a state, the soul is balanced and at peace. This balance is not only personal but social, because when individuals are just, society itself is just. In a thriving democracy, however, Plato warns that this balance is threatened by the dominance of desire. When citizens seek personal pleasure and gratification above all else, they neglect the discipline and wisdom that reason demands. The democratic ideal of equality can devolve into the dangerous belief that all desires are equally valid and must be satisfied. This leads to what Plato called the tyranny of the majority, where popular opinion rules without regard to truth or justice. This tyranny can manifest in several ways. First, the majority may demand laws and policies that benefit their immediate interests, but harm the society's long-term well-being. For example, they may prioritize short-term economic gain over environmental sustainability, or popular entertainment over meaningful education. When such decisions are made impulsively or emotionally, they undermine the foundations of a stable and just society. Secondly, the unchecked freedom celebrated in democracy can erode respect for authority and expertise. Plato argued that true knowledge is not a matter of opinion, but is grounded in understanding the eternal truths of justice, goodness, and beauty. In a society where every voice is considered equal, regardless of knowledge or virtue, the guidance of those who have cultivated wisdom is often ignored or ridiculed. This leads to a breakdown in social cohesion and an increase in chaos. Plato also explored how democracy affects the character of individuals. When people grow accustomed to satisfying every desire without restraint, they become slaves to their appetites, rather than masters of themselves. This loss of self-control corrupts the soul and leads to inner conflict. Without the guidance of reason, desires multiply unchecked, causing anxiety, dissatisfaction, and ultimately despair. This internal chaos reflects outwardly in society. Citizens lose trust in one another as they compete for resources, power, and pleasure. Social bonds weaken, and the sense of community dissolves. In such an environment, the promise of democracy, to provide freedom and equality, becomes hollow. The very freedoms that were supposed to empower individuals become sources of division and conflict. Plato's warning about democracy's potential to fail the soul is especially relevant today. In an age where technology enables instant gratification and endless choice, it is easier than ever for desires to run wild. Social media, consumer culture, and political polarization all contribute to a fragmented society where reason and virtue struggle to find a foothold. Yet Plato offers hope through the idea of education and self-cultivation. He believed that the soul could be healed and restored through the pursuit of wisdom. Education, in Plato's vision, is not merely the acquisition of facts, but the shaping of character. It trains individuals to use reason as their guide, to develop courage in standing for what is right, and to cultivate moderation in desires. This process requires patience and discipline. It demands that individuals question their impulses and look beyond immediate pleasures. It asks them to commit to a higher vision of the good, a vision that values justice, truth, and the common welfare over selfish gain. Plato's ideal of philosopher kings embodies this vision. These rulers are not tyrants but enlightened leaders, who have mastered their own souls and seek to govern for the benefit of all. While this ideal may seem distant in contemporary politics, it serves as a powerful reminder of what democracy needs: leadership grounded in wisdom and virtue. Moreover, Plato's emphasis on the soul invites us to rethink democracy as more than a political system. It challenges us to see democracy as a collective spiritual journey. Each citizen's inner balance contributes to the health of the whole. Therefore, nurturing the soul through education, reflection, and moral courage is an act of civic responsibility. This approach calls for a cultural shift. Instead of celebrating freedom as mere license, we must celebrate the freedom that comes from self-mastery. Instead of valuing popularity and sensation, we must value truth and justice. Instead of dividing into factions driven by selfish interests, we must seek unity through shared values. Plato's insights also remind us that democracy is fragile. It requires constant vigilance and renewal. Without a commitment to virtue and wisdom, democracy can easily slip into disorder or authoritarianism. The failures we see in modern democracies, polarization, misinformation, and loss of trust, reflect the soul's neglect Plato warned about. In this light, every citizen becomes a guardian of democracy's soul. By cultivating reason, supporting courage, and restraining desire within themselves, individuals contribute to the resilience of the political system. This personal work is the foundation of any healthy democracy. As you consider this, reflect on your own role. How do you balance your desires with reason? How do you stand for justice in your daily choices? How do you contribute to the common good beyond your own interests? Plato's warning is clear. Democracy fails when souls fail. But democracy flourishes when souls flourish. It is a call to awaken the philosopher within each of us, to be not just voters or spectators, but active participants in the moral life of our society. This awakening begins with education but continues in everyday life. It is in conversations, decisions and actions that the soul's order is maintained or lost. It is in choosing truth over convenience, justice over popularity, and virtue over comfort. The health of democracy depends on the health of its citizens' souls. This is the real reason democracy fails or succeeds. It is not only a political challenge, but a spiritual one. Let this insight guide you as you navigate the complexities of modern life and democracy. Embrace the responsibility to cultivate your soul, knowing that in doing so, you strengthen the very foundation of freedom. To fully grasp the warning Plato offers about democracy and the soul, we must also explore what he saw as the inevitable consequences when a democracy loses its moral compass. Plato believed that unchecked democracy, if left without guidance, naturally spirals toward tyranny. This transition, he argued, occurs because of the very freedoms democracy grants when those freedoms are abused. In Plato's view, when desire and passion dominate the soul and society, people begin to crave power and dominance over others. The democratic emphasis on equality and freedom, while noble in principle, can turn into chaos when every individual acts solely based on personal interest. This chaos creates fear and insecurity, conditions ripe for a strong leader to rise, promising order and safety. This leader, often a demagogue, exploits the fears and desires of the masses, offering simple solutions to complex problems. What begins as a protector quickly becomes a tyrant. Plato's cyclical theory of political decay shows this as a predictable pattern. Democracy leads to anarchy, anarchy leads to tyranny, and tyranny eventually ends in revolution, which may give birth to a new form of governance. Understanding this cycle provides a powerful lesson for our own times. It reminds us that democracy is not a guaranteed safeguard against tyranny. Rather, it requires active care and cultivation. Without citizens who prioritize virtue and wisdom, democracy's freedoms become vulnerabilities. But how do we prevent this decline? Plato's answer lies in education and the cultivation of the soul's higher faculties. He envisions a society where citizens are educated from a young age to value truth, justice, and the common good over selfish desires. This education is holistic, aiming not just to develop intellectual abilities but moral character. Moreover, Plato stresses the role of leadership grounded in knowledge and virtue. Philosopher kings, those who have achieved self-mastery and understanding of the forms, the eternal truths, are best equipped to guide the state wisely. They do not seek power for personal gain, but govern with the soul's harmony as their ideal for modern democracies. This means the importance of informed and virtuous leadership cannot be overstated. Electing leaders based solely on popularity or charisma risks undermining the delicate balance democracy requires. Citizens must also cultivate their own souls, recognizing that democracy's health depends on the moral fabric of its people. Plato's insights challenge us to rethink the very purpose of politics. Politics should not be about winning or gaining power, but about nurturing the conditions where souls and society can flourish. This calls for a renewal of civic education, one that integrates ethics, philosophy, and practical wisdom. The dangers Plato highlights are not abstract. They manifest today in political polarization, misinformation, and the erosion of trust. These symptoms reflect the soul's distress and the need for healing through collective effort. Plato's philosophy invites us to become more than passive consumers of politics. It calls us to be active guardians of democracy's soul. This guardianship involves cultivating virtues such as patience, humility, courage, and justice in our personal lives and communities. It means resisting the allure of easy answers and popular opinion when they conflict with deeper truths. It means fostering dialogue grounded in respect and reason, rather than division and fear. Additionally, Plato's vision inspires us to see democracy as a living process. not a static achievement. It requires continuous effort, reflection, and growth. Democracies that thrive are those where citizens see their role as co-creators of society, committed to justice and the common good. At its core, Plato's message is hopeful. He believed that even in flawed democracies, the potential for greatness exists if souls awaken to their higher nature. This awakening is the key to preventing the collapse into tyranny and chaos. It is the antidote to the failures democracy often faces. As you reflect on this, consider your own power as part of the democratic whole. Your choices, actions, and inner growth influence the collective destiny. Democracy is more than elections. It is the sum of the virtues practiced by each citizen. Plato's warning is urgent but also empowering. It reminds us that democracy's survival depends not just on laws and institutions, but on the soul's condition. Nurturing wisdom, courage, and moderation within ourselves is the foundation of a just and lasting society. By embracing this responsibility, you contribute to a future where democracy fulfills its promise, a society where freedom and justice flourish together, sustained by the harmony of souls. Let Plato's profound insights guide your understanding of democracy and inspire you to live with intention and virtue. The soul of democracy is in your hands. Cherish it, nurture it, and protect it for generations to come.